So in this video, we're going to be looking at the Share Launch or the Share LaunchPad stack within Share It. So here we have three examples here, and let's have a look at what Share It LaunchPad does, right? So as you see, we can have it open on scroll, and then it will, when we hover over, basically all of these actions can be configured. Okay, so let's look at this existing implementations that we have inside this demo project that ships with the stack. When we look at Share Launch, the top section allows us to configure the LaunchPad. Okay, that is the main icon that triggers the actual action. So here we can customize the icon. So we have 4 different icons that we can use, 3 different types of share icons, link, as well as a custom SVG that you can define. So like here is an example here in this demo, I used a custom SVG that has the question mark. I just pasted that directly into the custom setting. So here for the Launchpad, you can then define the size of that icon. Okay, it's actually the size, the total size of the actual button. So the icon size itself will actually be half the size of this because we need a little bit of padding for everything to look good. Then you can configure your colors. So your background, your border options, your SVG color, as well as shadow. Now, if you don't want a border or a shadow, it's simply just go into the color settings and set the opacity all the way to 0. That will effectively remove the border and the shadow. Then if you're a foundation user or a CSS guru, you can go ahead and create your own custom classes and then style this button even farther, okay, with swatches and your own CSS. The next setting has to do with the direction or the layouts of the satellites. This has to do with the actual positions of the Share It and Share Link stacks that can be added around your Launchpad. Fan option defines the scope at which how far around the circle are we going to evenly distribute our satellites. So in case 1 and case 3 here, I have actually the fan set to 180. Okay, whereas this middle example here is set to 360 degrees because the limitation, they will be spread all around the circle. Okay, and then the distance is how far away from the Launchpad do you want them to go, and then the direction here. The direction allows us to define where do we want. This makes most sense if we have it less than 360. So for these particular 180 degree implementations, where do we want that to fan out from, right? So do we want it to be up, down, left, right, or a custom value? Now, if you notice when you choose a direction up, down, left, or right, I give you a value in radians that is being used. I do this to kind of help you out to, if you want to define a custom, you can kind of get an idea of what the radian values define, right? There's a lot of tricky trigonometry going on here. And depending on your distance, sometimes these default values might not be exactly what you want. So this is why, depending on what distance and sizes values you have set, you might need to go to custom and then tweak the value till you get the alignment of your satellites just right. The next settings have to do with our satellites themselves. So these allow us to define the size and the colors of all the satellites. So in this first example here, I have the size of my satellites to be 48 pixels. And then here's the colors that are going to be used for every satellite. Now, by default, the SVG color here is not used. If we want the SVGs to have a standard color, we go ahead and check this. And what you'll notice is those icon colors are now all the same. Okay, let's have a look at this second example here. If I were to turn off standard color, you'll see that we actually get the native colors of each icon rather than, having one uniform color. So depending on what layout you want, you might want them to have different colors or the same color. And lastly, we can customize the animations. So there's several different animations that we can utilize here. My favorite is bounce. I think it just is a really nice, elegant animation. You can customize the speed of the animation. Now, you can also define a close delay. And what that is let's say I scroll down the page or click on something else on the page. This will cause the actual satellites to automatically close. You can add a delay to that close instead of them actually going immediately. Next is we can open on hover, which I think is a great way to actually trigger it. But you can always click on the Launchpad to open and close the Launchpad. So I think open on hover is great because it gives a lot of discoverability, as well as you can open on scroll. So as we see here on this page, if I go ahead and do preview, if I scroll down the page, this particular one will actually load on scroll. Now, in terms of the Launchpad satellites, I have already talked about how Share It and the Share Link stacks work, and the Share and Link satellite stacks work exactly the same. However, I should note that when you can override the styles that are defined globally in the Share Launch stack. So in the Share Launch, you can go ahead and customize the default color of all your satellites. However, you can override that at the individual satellite level as well. Now, lastly, we can actually add a content stack to Share Launch as well. And what this allows us to do is you can add whatever content you want as a standalone satellite as well. Now, granted, our satellites are tiny, so you can't add a lot of content into here, but I wanted to give you the flexibility to add your own stack content inside of an individual satellite.